Fitness Podcast, where we're talking all things diet, nutrition and sport and fitness today.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today you will be filled with the power of protein. So yes, that's right. We are looking at one of the macronutrients that we incorporate into your diet, which is protein. What are the other two macronutrients?
Coffee.
No. It'll be nice. Carbohydrates, fats, and protein. They are the power trio that we incorporate into our diet. Why is that?
Well, protein can be used as a fuel source. In actual fact, just about anything you eat can be used as a fuel source, but it's a very poor fuel source. The thing your body loves as a fuel source is carbohydrates. And if you're a Tojo Fitness part of the clan, then you know that other than in the summer where we cut back on some carbs to enable us to diet down, we pretty much keep carbs in the mix all year round because we want our body to get used to using carbs as a fuel source, because we want protein to be able to concentrate on the job that makes it amazing. Wouldn't it be wonderful just to be able to concentrate on the job that makes you amazing? And the thing that makes protein amazing is muscle building and repair.
Yeah.
And that's because of the addition of the nitrogen atom to its composition. Its composition is very similar to carbohydrates, but once that nitrogen atom is added, oh my gosh, it becomes a builder. It puts on its hard hat. It says, hi ho, it's off to work we go, and starts sorting your body out after a hard workout.
Yeah, so one of the main things that I will say to my clients after we've had a really good workout is now, number one, priority, get protein into your body. Now, what happens is that when we work out, for the muscle to grow, we actually damage the muscle. So then it has to repair itself. So we tear it, it grows, but if there's no protein in the body, the tissues can't start to form again. So it is really, really, really important. As soon as you've had a workout, you get some protein down your neck so they can put their hard hats on, put their scaffolding up and get to work.
So let's talk about how proteins are made. What do they look like? Well, proteins are actually long strings of amino acids. Amino acids are the real workmen. If you think of a protein as being the gang working at the side of the road, the gang is made up of a number of fellas and girls these days, of course, to be politically correct, who are working at the side of the road, often with one person telling everybody else what to do. It is the amino acids which are doing the work, 20 of them to be precise, 8 of which are essential. It does sound like men working at the side of the road, doesn't it? 8 of them are essential. What does that mean? Well, it's a bit of a misnomer calling them essential and non-essential. Your body needs them all to do anything. It's a little bit like, imagine the union. The boss says, right, we're going to lay off 3 or 4 of the fellas working on the side of the road. And the union goes on strike and says, no, unless they can all work, none of them will work. Well, that's exactly how protein works. We need all of them, or none of them are going to do a shred of work. We need 20 amino acids for our body to build muscle tissue. Now, the reason we call them essential and non-essential amino acids is because your body can manufacture in the liver most of the amino acids, but 8 of them your liver cannot produce. And those 8 must be taken from food sources. So the liver does this incredible thing. It will take one, let's say you're at the side of the road and you've got 2 builders and you need an electrician. The liver will take a builder amino acid and turn it into an electrician. That's incredible. But it can't do that with the 8 essential amino acids. They're specialists. They must come direct from the food source. Where do we find?
I'm glad you asked that question. We can find protein in a number of food sources which are available from all supermarkets. Meat, number 1.
If you want to grow muscle, eat muscle.
Yeah, that's true. So meat, things like chicken. Chicken is really, really good. It's a low-calorie protein source. Dairy, But obviously just make sure that you are counting your fats when it comes to dairy as well. Don't go eating a whole block of mature cheddar in the hope to build muscle, because at the same time you'll also pile on a whole load of fat.
Can we just give a moment just to pay
take a
respect
moment.
to the whole block of mature cheddar?
To the mature cheddar.
Breathing in, breathing out.
Yes,
Right, we can carry on now.
That's cool. If you're obviously vegan, vegetarian, you're also going to find your protein sources through soya is a good one. Tofu's really high on the protein scale. Seitan is available from Amazon. It's like a pork-like substance, can be placed into like casseroles, lasagnas. Really good on protein. And also tempeh. All these can be incorporated and used the same way as you would do meat.
Let's stop there for a moment. It's because all the ones you've mentioned are a complete, what we call complete amino acids. That is complete proteins, rather. That is, they contain all the amino acids.
Yes.
So if you eat meat, dairy, soya, fish, all these things contain the entire gang that's going to work on your body. The road crew are there. They're all ready to go. Now, the other ones which we could talk about, such as beans, pulses.
That's lentils, chickpeas.
Yeah, sure. Nuts, whole grains and other things. These are incomplete proteins, which means that only some of the fellas are there. So we need to supplement them or mix them together to get all of the amino acids. Yeah, all of the workforce. So this is really interesting and important, because if you're a meat eater and you eat dairy, then getting all your protein is very easy. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you have to think a lot more carefully about this. So for instance, if you are eating grains or cereals, then there's a limiting amino acid in the sense that lysine and threonine, two important amino acids, are not in grains and cereals. So you would add legumes and pulses to the mix in order to make a complete meal and have a complete protein. So for instance, you would have, if you had toast is not going to be brown wholemeal toast, very good for you, but not a complete protein. So the workforce, nice to have them on board, but they're not going to do much work.
Some of them are off sick.
But if you add beans onto the toast, so you've got beans on toast, then you've got a complete protein, because the legumes, the beans...
Can I have cheese on it too?
You can do. Because the beans are providing the lysine and the threonine. And cheese is another thing. You can add cheese to something, which is a complete protein, which adds things that are mixing. Let me give you another example. Vegetables. Vegetables actually can contain quite a lot of protein, but they normally are deficient in methionine. Now, if you add nuts to those... You're going to, nuts are a rich source of methionine. You now have a complete protein. So a vegetable and nut roast.
Oh, man.
You see, so if you're a vegetarian, all's not lost.
No.
You've taken one incomplete protein and added part of the workforce from another to create one complete workforce. So you might talk about nuts and seeds, which are missing lysine. That's very important. But once again, you can add pulses to that, and you now, so hummus would be a good example. And so what's happened in traditional cooking is that somehow instinctively human beings have known this very, very cleverly and have constructed recipes that contain whole proteins,
the whole caboodle,
out of part proteins, without even understanding the science behind it. Isn't that incredible?
Amazing stuff. So we're going to move on to how much protein should I have within my diet. I find so many people say to me, I feel like I'm having too much protein. No, probably not enough.
Yeah, protein is something which 10 years ago, perhaps 20 years ago, bodybuilders were about the only people who were eating a lot of protein. Well, bodybuilders and Germans eating lots of, and South Africans, lots of protein. And it was considered, well, if you eat lots of protein, it's going to be bad for you and so on. Yeah. And we've discovered and are discovering with every month that passes almost new important reasons why our protein diet should be higher, which is why you can go to the supermarket now and you find lots of fatty foods. Like you can get high protein Weetabix, you can get high protein muesli, you can get high protein porridge, you can get high protein milk. Milk is already high in protein. You don't have to pay through the nose to get high protein milk. It's already there.
Yeah. So how much are we looking at? So general population, for example, if you're not really putting a lot of muscle damage into your everyday, about 1 gram per kilogram. So 1 gram per kilogram of what you weigh. So for me, I am 50 kilos or 50 kilograms. Mm-hmm. So that would equal 50 grams of protein per day. Now, obviously not everyone is going to be general population. So for example, let's look at the older generation.
Yeah, and this is really interesting because when you think about how the diet and nutrition of older people, you tend to think about what would they eat in, for instance, a care home.
Yeah.
And they would be eating, traditionally, you would see, lots of jam sandwiches and stuff like that.
Meat and 2 veg.
But not a lot of meat. And the reason is because obviously as you get older, perhaps your dentures don't fit so well, you're finding more difficulty swallowing and so on. And so we tend not to eat as much. But because muscle starts degenerating as we age, we actually need more protein. So we would recommend for an older person with no other health complications should be eating up to about 1.5 grams per kilogram of protein. Now, this makes most people who are over 65 really deficient in protein.
Yeah.
And when they're deficient in protein, the body starts breaking down the protein. Do you remember me telling you that protein can be used as a fuel source?
Yeah.
Now, when we're older, we tend to eat less anyway. And so if we're not getting enough fuel for our body starts breaking down our fat stores, but also starts breaking down our protein stores.
Which means your muscles.
Yeah. So we lose our...
muscle wastage.
We lose some of our love handles, but we also lose some of our biceps, which are broken down and turned into fuel. So we want to avoid that.
Yeah.
So in the presence of a plentiful supply of protein, and this is really important whatever age we are, in the presence of a plentiful supply of protein, the body, if it needs energy, will tend to pick on fats and burn fats and leave the muscle tissue where it is. So now, if you're a physically active person or a bodybuilder, this is one reason why we want to be eating. So a physically active person, an endurance athlete, might have up to 1.5 grams per kilogram.
Yeah.
A bodybuilder may have anything between 2 and 3 grams per kilogram.
Yeah.
Partly because they're tearing down huge amounts of body tissue which need to be repaired, but also because they want to keep themselves in an anabolic condition. They want to keep themselves in a state where their body is constantly building and not using muscle tissue they've just built for fuel.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to put yourself in your overdraft on your protein, do you? Because exactly what Tom just said, if you're in your overdraft on protein, the body will actually start breaking down the muscle instead to get everything that it needs. So you want to always have that steady supply of protein, which leads us nicely onto when should we eat protein. A lot of conversations I have with my clients, when should I do it? Well, I don't do it here, I don't do it there. So we're going to really kind of just like set this out. When is the best time to eat protein?
Yeah, and there's a lot of different views on some of these things, but we're just going to put out there what is the mainstream 95% of nutritionists would define as being the most important times.
Yes.
And in order to do that, we're going to go back to our crew of men at the side of the road, and we're going to retask them with laying a brick wall. And we're only going to have 2 of them now. And I used to be a builder at one point, many, many years ago. And I used to love watching, I was a young guy at the time, and I used to love watching the bricklayers. And bricklayers can work really fast. Man, they can put up a wall faster than you can blink an eye if the person supplying them with brick and muck to put the wall up, cement, is able to provide it at a steady pace. So one of the most important things you've got to have a bricklayer who knows what he's about, but then you need a steady stream of bricks and mortar, and they're going to put that wall up really fast. Now, if there's no longer a steady stream, let's say that the builder's labourer disappears off down the road for a fried breakfast, the builder himself, no matter how much he wants to build, is going to come to a halt. So what he needs is this steady stream of supplies, and our body is no different. Our body needs a steady stream of protein so it can continue building muscle tissue all of the time. And this isn't just for bodybuilders, this is for older people who are sedentary as well.
So first important time to eat protein is breakfast. So what happens is that you wake up in the morning, and we've spoken about this before, you wake up in the morning, you've gone, depending on how long you sleep, you've gone for that long without actually eating protein. So you've woken up in this state where if you leave it for very much longer, your body will start breaking down your muscles to get what it needs, which is why breakfast time, you feed it protein as soon as you wake up.
And this is what we call the catabolic state. Let me throw a couple of keywords in here. Mm-hmm. Your body can be in one of two states at any given time. Metabolically, it can either be anabolic. Anabolic means it's growing muscle, it's growing. Or catabolic, meaning it's tearing that muscle down.
It's in your overdraft.
Yeah. So you're either going up the escalator or down the escalator, or to change the picture, if you remember Gladiators ready. The last event in the Gladiators show was you had to run up the travelator.
Oh, it was so tough.
And it was a leaning at a 45-degree pathway which was travelling in reverse. And you had to run up to the top, a little bit like those travelators they have at Gatwick Airport, but it was set up on an incline. Now, if you stop still, if you're on that travelator, you're going to come back down to the bottom, and that's a little bit like building muscle tissue. You've got to keep going forward or you'll end up going backwards. So by the time you wake up in the morning, your body is in a catabolic state. It's now thinking, where am I going to get fuel for the day? Oh my goodness, he's woken up. I need fuel. And it sends out a signal, I need fuel. And so it takes all the carbohydrates in its system, which isn't much at this point. It then looks and says, my goodness, I need more. And so it goes for some fat storage. But it also goes and takes all the lads who are building on the road, all your road crew, it takes them off of what they're doing and has them doing something else instead. Yeah. The body is catabolic, and this is a disaster if you're an athlete or a bodybuilder. And so when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you want to do is put yourself back in an anabolic state. We want to get that magic ingredient, nitrogen, back into our body so the builders can get back to work, right? Yeah. We need the bricklayer's apprentice to start providing him with bricks and mortar very, very quickly. So first thing you do, you wake up. This is why breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Check out our last podcast on that, people. So just a couple of examples of what you can eat for breakfast where you're like, well, that sounds great, but what actually can I eat? 2 eggs on toast.
Yeah.
Now, whole grain toast. 2 eggs on toast, that's 22 grams of protein. And you got your carbs in there too.
And remember, if you've been listening to what we've been saying, you'll know that toast is not a complete protein, but adding the eggs to it makes it a complete protein.
There you go.
And so your 22 grams of protein, they're all usable.
Yeah.
Immediately, your body's gone from catabolic state to anabolic state. Your body you can now go to work on an egg. And as you go to work on that egg, you can be secure in the fact that your body is not tearing down the hard-won muscle tissue that you got in the gym the day before.
So another example, half a cup of oats with milk. Like 25 grams of porridge with some milk in there as well. That's 20 grams of protein right there in that little bowl of goodness.
Oh, wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's another example of an incomplete protein,
yes,
which is the oats being mixed with milk.
Yeah, which is complete.
Which is a complete protein. So you're looking, if you're getting 20 grams of protein each meal, that's a good example of how much you can get.
That's a steady stream. Yeah.
Steady stream.
Yeah.
You're going to work, you've got carbohydrates and you've got plenty of protein in there.
And you've got your
for your
fats in
body.
there too.
Yeah.
When also to have protein, well, pre and post workout, I've actually mentioned it just before in the podcast. Post workout, extremely important. Pre workout too. So post and pre workout. And for us, we do protein shakes. So that's quite we'll look at that in a moment, but that's quite an easy way, an easy shot, for example, of getting protein into your body.
If you're not a breakfast person, you find breakfast hard. I can't eat eggs in the morning. They don't work for me in the morning, eggs. But a protein shake, I can do that. That's nice and easy.
Yeah.
Now, pre and post workout. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Because they're important times. We've had some protein in the morning.
Yeah.
So we're now coming up towards our workout window. Now, what are we doing when we work out? We're tearing down muscle tissue.
Yeah, we're tearing down the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that the bricks are there so the builder can rebuild that wall even as it's being torn down in the gym. So we want to make sure that about an hour before we go to the gym, perhaps an hour and a half, we have some protein. Now, if you go to the gym in the morning, sometime after breakfast, obviously it's already there. But if you're going in the afternoon, you want to make sure that your lunch or maybe your afternoon snack has some protein in it, so that there is all the equipment your body needs to build is there and ready and waiting. If you go to the gym, you don't want to be working out on protein. You don't want to have it 10 minutes before you go. It'll make you sluggish and give you a stomach cramp. But if you have it an hour before, that's fine. It gives it a chance to digest, start moving around your system. You then go to the gym. After you come out from the gym, and we're going to do a whole podcast on this, this is a magic window of opportunity.
Yes, it is.
When you come out from the gym, all the muscle tissue is torn down, your body is panicking and desperately wants to build it. So it's almost like the bricklayer is working double time, double speed. So you now want to provide him with more bricks and more mortar than you've ever provided him with before in order that he can build that wall at double speed.
Build.
So as soon as you finish, the first thing you want to do, as soon as you finish, is you want to have some sort of meal or snack after you've worked out that contains carbohydrates to replenish the energy you've used, but particularly has protein in it, so your body has something to build with. Remember, we don't want to end up in a catabolic state. We want to stay anabolic, people.
Absolutely. And another time in which we eat our protein for us as well is before you go to bed. Before you go to bed. So we actually have Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
Very low, very, very low fat Greek yogurt. And we balance this into our calories during the day.
Yeah.
We actually work backwards on our calories during the day because this is one of the most important things that you can have before bedtime.
Yeah, and the reason is because what's happening when you're in bed, you're not eating, your body's still burning fuel, but you're not eating anything, and so it's very easy to slip into a catabolic state.
Yes.
Catabolic state, the wall's going to get torn down, so you want to try and avoid those little vandals tearing down the wall. So you're going to keep the builder at work. For as long as you can, you're going to keep him at work. So you're going to keep, even though the sun's gone down, even though the builder's apprentice who normally supplies him for bricks has gone home, you want to make sure that the builder has a big stack of bricks to carry on working with and a big slug of muck to carry on sticking those bricks together with. And he will carry on working throughout half the night if you give him the right sort of protein. So as Joe said, we at night traditionally we tend to eat, I'll have 150 grams of low-fat Greek yogurt. I'll have a mug of hot milk because I like that, skimmed milk. And I'll sometimes have a handful of nuts as well, which slows down the release of all that. So that at night, slowly, there's protein being released. Now, let's just talk briefly about what sort of protein you want at night.
Yeah, what sort of protein do you want at night?
Well, the best protein you can have at night is a protein that's slow release. Casein is a good example of that. So most protein powders are whey. So you eat all your whey, it's fantastic. Whey is good, it's a great source of protein. It gets into your system really, really fast. At night, Casein is a really slow-acting protein. And so that's a great way, if you're having protein shakes perhaps before you go to bed, get a casein protein before you go to bed. So it slowly releases its goodness during the night. And Greek yogurt is an example of a food source which is full of casein. Milk is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got our before bed, and then one of the things actually as well, I just want to pop in here if you don't mind, is snack times. And we've actually just recorded a 60-second nutrition about this on snack times. If, for example, you're getting... Now, you shouldn't have any room in here now. We've covered all the main meals. So we've got main meals in there as well.
Yeah.
Breakfast, pre-workout, post-workout, before bed, and main meals. Now, there shouldn't be any gap in there for you to have a snack. If you are going to have a snack because you're starting to get a bit peckish, do make sure that you're getting the snack that gives you the most back. So don't go for the crisps, don't go for the chocolate. Try and incorporate a bit of protein into that as well. Give the bricklayer a little bit more brick.
Yeah, which is why we use protein shakes again, because they're a very simple way of getting something down your neck. So a protein shake you can take to work with you. You can take a protein bar, as long as you get a decent one.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the grenade bars. Because they've got a good... the ingredients are great in them. We would suggest during the day, if you're supplementing, supplement with whey protein.
Yeah.
Whey protein has been found to be really the king of proteins.
1 scoop.
Yeah. 1 scoop gives you about 30,
Yep.
sometimes 25 grams of protein.
So 1 scoop to about 250 ml of skimmed milk or water.
Yeah.
1 scoop equals 250.
Yeah. Shake it up. You're sorted. You're good to go.
Yeah.
But then at night, we swap to a casein, if you really want to get technical about it, so that the body can build through the night.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure every meal you stop, you're going to be having breakfast, dinner, evening meal, perhaps a supper, perhaps a couple of snacks throughout the day, to enable this steady stream of protein and nutrients to your body? How have I got my 20 grams of protein, or whatever it is, I've worked it out, 1 gram per kilogram, 1.5, 2 grams per kilogram. And if you're a Tojo client, we actually tell you how much you're going to need each day. Have I managed to put that in? My main meal in the evening, if I put in 100 grams of chicken, I know I'm going to get 20 grams of protein. I'm sorted. And then before you go to bed, give the builder all it needs.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we're just really pumped about this because nutrition is the make or break thing in your life. And often we see people at gyms and they're doing all the right things at the gym, but they simply are not building muscle because they don't have protein. Or older clients who are getting frailer and frailer, and the reason they're getting frailer is not because they're not being active, but because there's not enough protein in their diet to enable that muscle to stay on their bodies instead of being used as fuel.
Yeah, that's right. So we've spoken quite a bit actually about supplements today. If you would like any supplements, do give us a shout, because we have a special code for you to use. But also, don't dismay if you are vegan, vegetarian. There are protein options, comes in all varieties, all flavours, all varieties. It's accessible to everybody.
We want to do just a shout out just at the end of this programme. Thank you for sticking with us through the last 30 minutes. A shout out to Lee Brown and to Luke Dorman, who have been following us for a while, and they said,
listening.
Can you do a shout out for us? So we do a shout out to you, Lee and Luke. It's lovely to have you with us on this journey. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Tojo Podcast. It's been helpful to you. Do get in touch with us. Write on the link below, write on a comments bar, send us a message, send us your questions.
Subscribe!
Please.
And also, most importantly, tell your friends about us, because we want to get this out widespread. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to The Power of Protein. We hope you have an amazing day. This has been Tojo